Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time. This is Going Public, and today's guest, Windell Curole, South Lafourche Levee District General Manager. Thanks for being here, Windell. We appreciate your time. It's been a heck of a year. Every year is a heck of a year, right? It's always really something, right? If we're in the cone 7 times, or for this year, it seems like we're dealing with more water coming from the north than from the south. So there's always something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And look, a lot of people say, well, you're getting ready for hurricanes. Are y'all ready for season? Well, we don't get ready. We're always working to improve flood protection. And with the rain we've been having, it's knocked out all of our dirt work. We can sneak in some maintaining of the grass on the levee, but the dirt work is almost shut down completely. So we're behind. We're going to have a little less protection because we haven't been able to move as much dirt, both in Lafourche and Terrebonne.
Right, because your work really is done in off season, basically. I mean,
well,
there's no off season, but
in fact, during hurricane season, if there's no storm, we're improving the levee system.
Right. So what's happening, and what? I mean, we're gonna have a wall here. We're gonna be 25 feet, 30 feet.
Well, we're gonna be better. And and that's the thing. You can't always go as fast as you need to, as you want to, but the philosophy, what we always try to do is be better today than yesterday, be better tomorrow than today. And for almost 2 years, we've been able to do that. And but the threat's always there, and you never know if it's high enough.
Right.
A storm can show up no matter how high you are. A storm can be higher than that.
South Lafourche took a pretty good smack last year at one of those storms that came through. I forget which one it was.
Zeta's the one.
Zeta, right.
Yeah.
But
the wind caused some real damage.
I went down there and they had some real damage there in Golden
But
Meadow
the water,
we
had one piece of the levee that the water got maybe within 7 feet of the top. But, our levees are so high now that it's going to take a consistently large storm pushing, I think, to get us. But I like to talk about those storms. If we can put the slides up.
There we go.
Yeah, that's a Rosette spoonbill in the back of our property at the Levee District. All right, next slide.
Beautiful.
Can you guess what that's? Don't read it, but tell me what you think that is.
Hurricane Betsy?
New Orleans. Hurricane Betsy. Did you read it?
No.
Very good. Because a lot of people, I showed that slide right after Katrina, and people thought it was Katrina.
Well, yeah.
But it did the same thing. New Orleans East flooded the same way. And Hurricane Betsy was a storm of note because after Betsy, insurance people got out of flood insurance. And that's when National Flood Insurance Program had to be created to provide some flood protection, some insurance. Also, the Corps of Engineers was not involved with hurricane levees. They were involved just with river levees. Hurricane Betsy hit October 27th, right after Betsy. They passed a water bill that created the Lake Pontchartrain vicinity, which is protection for New Orleans, and the La Rosa Golden Meadow was protection for our South Lafourche area.
Right. I only knew because it was black and white, and I was a kid.
And you recognize
and I was hoping it would come to us, right? Because I get to play with the flashlight. And my dad's like, shut up.
Well, the eye.
And then Camille did the same thing, almost that same path.
Well, yeah, they were a little more to the right in Mississippi.
Yeah.
You look at we had the eye come over in cutoff at my parents' house, and I'm sure I was talking to a number of people at Terrebonne, and the eye was big enough that it covered a lot of Terrebonne too. So big storm. Next slide is the flooding. Okay, this is from Hurricane Juan.
That was 95?
No, that was 85.
85, excuse me. Yes.
85, and that's Torpin subdivision, Galliana area. Next slide. And that is behind the Catholic Church in Golden Meadow. Not Golden Meadow, I'm sorry, in La Rose. And that's the Intercoastal Canal on the right. But you can't tell where the Intercoastal Canal, because it's way over. And we had 30% of the homes and businesses flood in South Lafourche.
And that was a 1, right?
Yeah, barely. But it hung on there for a long time.
It went back and forth across
the state. Spent about 3 days. Flooded from West Jefferson all the way toward Bargain City.
I worked for FEMA, believe it or not.
Oh, you did?
I was playing baseball, and I was answering some people for temporary housing for that.
Yeah, and then so you had these storms hit, but that's the last time we flooded in South Lafourche.
Right.
Since that time, that was 85. The system wasn't completed. By 1993, it was completely encircled. Again, that slide. And that's from Katrina in the New Orleans area. Okay, next slide. Yeah, and that's the levee underneath the water. Yeah. So the levees, a lot of levees did survive being overtopped. But in the St. Bernard area, you had a 14-mile segment where 7 got washed away because they weren't finished building the levee. A lot of people don't realize, but levees handle the water pretty well, except
Even if they go over the top.
over the top. If it's
But
not
it's when
too
they
long.
break, like they did the 17th Street Canal.
Well,
you've got
and that was
trouble.
not a levee; that was a wall. You
Right,
see,
T-wall.
And that's for some of the misconception. They've changed the engineering on the levees, and I say levee meaning an earthen structure.
Correct, yeah.
But a wall is a flood protection structure, but it's not a levee.
Right.
But the walls did fail. The levees truly didn't fail. You had some over top, and that's beyond design.
Yeah, the
That's not
Industrial
design.
Canal, and you had 17th Street Canal.
Exactly,
failed.
exactly. All right, next slide. Again, showing that's South Lafourche area in the yellow, and we have not flooded for any of the storms. And everybody else around us, north, south, east, and west, have flooded. And that's Sarah, they went and computerized all of the flooding after the storm and showed where it flooded in those years. And so they compiled all of the flooding. And
I got
almost all of South Louisiana flooded from 2004 to 2012, except us. And then we were the lowest
Makes
levee
it a little
system.
different, yeah.
I mean, it's just we've been there long enough. It got the levees high enough and closed the circle. And we're, the improvements that are going on in Terrebonne,
Right.
you could see that coming. Next slide. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Then you have to look at storms that hit. That was Laura. Remember Laura?
Oh, yeah, I remember Laura.
Okay, wiped out Lake Charles, right?
Calcasieu Parish, yes.
Blew everything away. But people kept saying, well, Category 4, big storm, where was the storm surge? Because Lake Charles didn't flood very much. It had terrible wind damage.
Right.
Well, Grand Chenier got 17 feet. So if you move that storm 17 miles to the west, Lake Charles would have got the wind and got probably 14 to 15 feet of water and truly been totally
Right.
wiped out. And wherever it gets 17 feet of water is going to be a terrible problem.
Yeah, and then Lake Charles is further inland,
Yes.
right? So they don't have a levee system like we have.
Well, but Southwest Louisiana has not been able to do
Right.
comprehensive flood protection, new building
'Cause-
levees. They haven't pushed for it as hard. They've got a few taxes. In fact, we had some of us, Reggie and I, and a number of other people, went to some meetings in ERATH and Delcom,
Right, they have.
and other meetings out there, and they have not been able to consistently say we want flood protection through levees, and they haven't been able to get
Hurricane Andrew whacked that area,
Well,
Erath,
there.
Delcom,
The Morgan City
Morgan
area,
City, yeah, Franklin, General.
they were wiped out by Rita.
Rita, right, correct.
you know-
Abbeville, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and you had Rita and
Oh, yeah, actually, that
And
was
Ike.
one of the last big Terrebonne floods, too, was
you're
Rita.
right. And next slide. And then again, showing where that 17 feet could have hit, but again, it went up and hit just to the east of the Lake Charles area. Next slide. Now, that's Hurricane Barry. This is the wall we have behind the pump station in Golden Meadow, the Golden Meadow pump station. We have a wall, and Barry pushed a 6-foot storm surge. Now, our wall was at 13 feet, but still, Barry was not a super powerful storm.
Right.
And we have our levees in that area are 17 feet. So next slide. We went ahead and raised the wall from 13 to 17 feet.
Nice.
And again, it will take a solid storm. And, I'm trying to get a little bit of work and experimentation by taking a storm like Laura, taking the same dynamics and parameters, and instead of making it hit Grand Chenier, I wanted to see what it would do against our levee and see what that computer model would show.
Right.
And I'm just curious. We're a little bit further in. We have some barrier islands. We have some marsh, some space between the open Gulf and where we are. Would it be a 17-foot storm surge? Would it be 16? With the 17, could our system handle it? And these are really good exercises. In the past, you would fabricate storms and then run them. But when you have a real storm that you know what it did in a certain place, and then you take that storm, and I call it the right storm in the wrong place,
Right.
put those same parameters and see what your heights and protection does. I think it would be a good exercise, and I've been trying to push that.
It's always interesting to which direction it's coming, whether it's coming from Florida or whether it's coming from directly north of Mexico. I think that always makes a difference, particularly with our weather, our depth of our water.
All of it, though. I mean,
Yeah.
even the angle of approach.
Right.
Look, if Katrina was 16 miles to the east of us, Grand Isle got the back part of the eye.
Right.
We only got 6 feet of water.
Right.
Had the eye been 16 miles to the west of us, we'd have been totally wiped
Oh,
out.
absolutely.
I mean, completely wiped out. And where it comes from, the angle that it hits, and
Right.
intensity. All right, next slide. Next slide. And then the eye walls
That's
you
a
talked about that
reinforced.
failed.
Yeah, that's a
well,
reinforced.
Now we put, we call it an A-frame eye wall.
I got you.
Because the eye walls had moved in York. back
Oh,
and
yeah,
forth.
that was
Now
nothing
with
like
this
this.
A-frame,
Yeah.
that I-beam goes all the way down to about 60 feet below the ground. So,
60
Yeah,
feet.
they don't move. And you have a splash pad. So even if it overtops with the splash pad, it's not going to lose any of its strength. So even the overtopping, it'll survive some.
Wow.
Next slide.
That wasn't even close.
Yep, and this is along the intercoastal. The original wall was 8 feet. Then the Corps had raised it to this 10.5, but we wanted to get to 13. Next slide. And so that's up to 13 feet on the intercoastal. So, we saw Ike push about a 7-foot storm surge at Golden Meadow, but it was 6 feet in the intercoastal right over here.
Right.
So that was way too high. So we don't want to flood from the north side. Okay.
Right.
We're going to flood.
Yeah.
So we've raised up to 8 to 13 feet, and we think we've done a good job of reducing the chance of having a flood from the backside, flooding and having the hard. We're at 18 on the south end,
Right.
but brought this up to 13. Next slide.
Yeah, we need to take a little break, but yeah, it just shows you the armor now that you have that wasn't there, and particularly it wasn't there in New
We're
Orleans.
better off
So-
today than yesterday.
Absolutely. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back with more Going Public right after this.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Alford, your host for To Your Health with Terrebonne General Health System. Our weekly show provides the latest in healthcare specialties only offered by Terrebonne General. Join us each Wednesday at 7 p.m. to stay up to date with the latest innovations in health. Terrebonne General provides healthcare breakthroughs in cardiology, cancer care, women's health, health and wellness, and much more. You don't want to miss our next To Your Health. See you then.
In South Louisiana, storms are a way of life. Every storm poses a different threat, whether from flooding or hurricane-force winds. At All South Consulting Engineers, we help protect our people from these disasters. Before a storm, we work with our leaders to prevent catastrophic damage. After the storm, we help get the resources needed for rebuilding. We have helped our cities, parishes, and school boards recover over $2 billion to rebuild our community. We'll be here for the next one.
A new company with a lot of history. GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Everybody, welcome back to Bayou Time, and this is Going Public. Harry McCullough here with Windell Curole, South Lafourche Levee District General Manager. We were just talking, it's been a mild hurricane season, but it never is until August, pretty much.
We
right?
rarely have some really bad, but we've had
We've had
them last year.
them, yeah.
But basically, August 15th to October 15th is the meat of the hurricane season. The worst storms, the most plentiful storms, peak of hurricane season is September 10th.
Right.
But we'll go back to the slides and kind of go through these. And this is work that's getting done. We're raising that levee to 18 feet. And on the outside, Ducks Unlimited, ConocoPhillips, CPRE, and the parish is doing some terraces. Now, what that does, the terraces are good environmentally, but they also break the wave action that protects the toe of our levee system. So getting both things done on both sides, environmental,
Yeah.
breaking the everyday wave action, and getting those levees up to 18 feet.
It's
Next
so
slide.
pretty, right? You know, you never think that'd be pretty, but
There's some
like-
really scenic
yeah,
sights.
it's like
I see
Ireland.
eagles on top of the levee.
Yeah.
Our levees have gotten so high, the eagles are in our levee
that's
instead of the
awesome.
trees. And then we had to, after Katrina, they made a new 100-year storm. And so we didn't want to spend $3 million doing a computer model. So I pulled up these storms. This is the
storm
worst.
surge.
These are the worst heights on record as in 2006
Right.
in the Gulf of Mexico. And you see those elevations. You see the storms. 28 feet for Katrina.
Wow.
Same place. Camille here. It's a Category 5.
Right,
23 feet. Now imagine your house survives Camille. Category 5. 23 feet. You figure hurricane proof.
Yeah.
Katrina comes along and wipes it
gone.
out.
You're
That's
gone.
how terrible. We talk about us being snake bit, nothing like them.
Oh,
but you
no.
can see how terrible. But a lot of those elevations. Now this is the worst in history. All right. So we get down to about 17 feet. Okay, next slide.
Wow.
And then, I'm sorry. The last one was in Louisiana. This is
Yeah.
the highest ever, and you
Oh,
can
yeah.
see Katrina, Carla. I remember Carla, 1961. I'm a little kid, and that storm hit south of Corpus Christi. Okay,
yeah.
but the eye was 52 miles wide, and it flooded in Golden Meadow for a storm that went
Wow.
in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico.
That's a big
But
storm.
we looked at those and we said, okay, our system was 13 feet on the south end and 8 feet on the north end. We needed to increase it, so we chose to try and build 16 on the south and 13 on the north. And we've done that, and we just needed a little more work. And in a few areas, we built up to 18 feet. All right,
Right.
next slide. And then this, again, that's the shape of our system. But what I wanted to show, these are the preliminary hurricane maps. Flood insurance maps. And with the interesting thing, down the middle is where the bayou is, and where that gold is happens to be where most of the houses are. So most of them are above the base flood elevation, which is fantastic. It also shows that our levee system is higher than the 100-year storm that they have. They have 14-foot elevations where we have about 16 to 18.
Oh, that's
And
great.
so our map has shown real good in these
Are they
preliminary.
using that to
It's
set their
preliminary.
rates?
I think they will, but we've got a problem right now. I had someone in Golden Meadow they paid
Nice.
$450 insurance last year.
Right.
They got a bill of $10,000 because they're changing the rules.
I
And so
know.
we need to get all of our elected officials
better.
we had the same thing with Biggert Waters a few years ago.
Yeah, right.
And we showed them. In fact, next slide.
Yeah, we doing all this work down here. We ought to get paid for something.
Okay, Biggert Waters was going on. Representative Scalise, while talking against that bill, showed this picture that I had provided to him. When you look to the right, that's LA1. Now, that was for Tropical Storm Lee. That's just about any
Right,
storm.
tropical storm.
LA1,
Right,
south of
it's
the levee system,
strong
it
south
floods.
wind,
Then
yeah.
I'll go 180 degrees, and the picture on the left is inside the system.
Right.
And what he was showing is that we have not flooded, so give us credit for what the levee does. Next slide. Now that's Mr. Fugate is the head of FEMA. They were pushing this Biggert Waters. They had a policy that if it wasn't a certified levee, you didn't put it on their computer model. Okay, so you had look our delegation, and there's Senator
Landry,
Landrieu, Senator
Vitter.
Vitter, and I'm talking to Fugate. What I'm telling him is, on your map, you said this doesn't exist. I have 180 pilings 90 feet deep on an 8-foot thick concrete slab that it comes into with this steel and concrete going up to 11.5 of protection. Your map says this does not exist and it doesn't affect the water. And luckily with the work that was done we had a couple of coalitions, Dwayne Bourgeois working with it, we're back in those days, and we got a Grim Waters which was accepting these levees, and we have the same problem going on exactly right now. We're leaving to go to Washington this week
Right.
to make sure that everybody
Right.
understands the truth about it. All right, next slide.
Shut off that loop.
Yes. All right, now Morganza, big news, big news. You know, there's our system, and you can see, next slide, it shows up a little bit better. We have improved. If you look to the right, that blue area, that's the mitigation area we did for K. But you see that red to the right, red and gold kind of color? That levee has been lifted to a 9-foot elevation. That's part of Morganza. That's L.
That was the
Now,
big-
the green area is still yet to be built, but it's being advertised right now. But the red area, from Pointe aux Champs all the way to the Grand Bayou floodgate, is up to an 8-foot elevation to a 12-foot elevation. It has really improved tremendously, and then we have the floodgate itself is in place and workable. There it is. It's in place right now, and then we get a storm. So with the improvement of that, think back, Rita, you had 11,000 homes flood in Terrebonne Parish. Then a couple of years ago, you had the same water elevation, but all the improvements, only 11 homes flooded. Well, the biggest improvement that we've had in the last number of years is segment K going up to the low area at 8 feet. With the biggest hole in the system on these sides was Grand Bayou. It being plugged, that 11 houses would go to zero with the same water elevation. But that's really big news, being able to shut up that area. We just have that one little segment to connect, to at least have 8 foot of protection in that whole east side connected to our levee system.
Right, and that's where we need to go with the insurance. Say, hey, look, we're saving you money.
Yeah, now,
right.
and the other thing is right now, the heights are not quite to what FEMA says the 100-year storm is, so the benefits from the flood insurance are not there. But first, we want to stop the flood water. So stop the flooding, and then keep on working toward getting that accreditation so we can get that flood insurance reduced.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we're saving them money now. We don't have claims like we did.
Yeah, and this is on the left is actually the mitigation, and there's a little green area in the back, and that's that work that's done, part of Section L. Next slide. That's raising that levee segment up to 8 on K, so much more substantial levee. Next slide. Again, working up there, it's just really nice. It used to be just a little hill. Yeah. Now it's turned into levee.
Right.
And then there was we were bringing 55,000 cubic yards had washed away last year, and we brought back with barges and also with trucks. And the low area that was below 8, we used that 55,000 cubic yards to raise everything to 8. So tremendous improvement in that whole area. Next slide. And the other big news is that there's some money being started. That is the levee system, okay? Bayou Lafourche in the middle, the intercoastal canal. Well, the Morganza system attaches to our system, and part of our system is part of Morganza as you go to the intercoastal. That red is indicating the floodgate that will be placed in the intercoastal canal. It will be on the east side. And there you go. There's the little design. That's the corner of our levee in La Rose. It's going to go to the east side of our system and cross the intercoastal. And then that levee is going to go up past Lockport area. And that's going to be the flank. So the whole flank of the Morganza system, it will be the closure there, and the whole Lafourche Ridge will protect from flooding that would go into North Lafourche and into Terrebonne from the east side.
Right. Oh, no, that's a great
tremendous.
improvement.
I mean, that's big news, getting money to at least start the investigations. And if things move quickly, you never know, maybe in a couple of years. Look, I can still remember Grand Bayou meeting in Baton Rouge, trying to get the governor to support it with North Lafourche and with Terrebonne. And then to see this pile of steel just a year ago, and now you have that floodgate in Grand Bayou. So with the effort that the people in Terrebonne and North Lafourche have pushed for to get the money, that's been able to get done.
And doing it a lot on their own, and now getting help, because you guys with leadership, started it yourselves, and now are getting help from.
And that's the thing, if you are producing your own money, at least you have something to build every year. If you got to depend on the outside, it's inconsistent, whether it's federal or state. So you can always look at some improvement by having your own money. But also when you have your own money out there, and you say, look, guys, we're providing our own money. You have a lot of other people asking things, but they don't have anything in the game. It helps tremendously in convincing
and the Corps finally let y'all start doing some of that work instead of making you wait around. I tell you, these levees are starting to look more like what's going along the Mississippi River as opposed to hills, like you said earlier.
Well, like I say, it's so difficult to do. It takes a long time. And again, that's that thing, never stop getting better. Never stop getting better, and you got to keep on getting better. Now, the West Shore project in the east side of Lake Pontchartrain, those people lucked out. They worked hard, put some money in, but invested $10 million in trying to get the system approved. They hit a money package that was going through
with
Congress,
infrastructure,
and got the whole chunk of money at one time.
That's going to be a heck of a project, right? That's going to run right around the southwest corner
reserve area.
Reserve, St. Charles Parish.
And it's also going to
They
protect...
got smoked by Isaac, though,
Yeah, and I-10. comes down on the ground in that area. So
Right.
it's going to protect
So
I-10
big
evacuation for New
evacuation.
Orleans. Yeah. So
Well, we used to always say I-10 would get flooded. Those bridges, at 610 and I-10 would flood, and then they would flood over an airline highway. It was like, these are the major rights out of here.
well, exactly.
So-
you had to get out before the water got you first. But
Exactly.
and now this buys you a little more time.
All right, Windell Curole, thank you so much for joining us, man. It's always great to see those
A lot of good
improvements.
stuff happening right now.
Yeah, you're right.
Good luck for everybody, though.
Yeah, that'll do it for this edition of Going Public. We'll be right back with more Bayou Time after this.